My husband and I had the best holiday of our lives in Ireland 10 years ago. On the small roads, we chose to drive ourselves and stay on the left side of the castles. Right away we knew this was the cleanest, greenest place we had ever been to, with the nicest people. Before we left Dublin, we went to St. Patrick's Cathedral to hear a children's choir sing in beautiful, pitch-perfect harmony. We drove to Trim Castle in County Meath. It is the biggest Anglo-Norman castle in Ireland and was used for parts in Mel Gibson's movie Braveheart that take place in a castle. The next day we drove south through some beautiful countryside and stopped at a sheep farm to see the hand-woven wool goods that were for sale. After that, we visited the Kilkenny Castle in County Kilkenny, the Waterford Crystal Factory, and the famous Rock of Cashel in County Tipperary. We spent the night in Blarney, County Cork, and then went on a tour of Blarney Castle. My husband kissed the stone at the very top of the tower. The Blarney Woolen Mills was another place we visited. Driving on, we spent 2 nights in Ballyseed Castle of County Kerry with its unique character and charm. The castle was surrounded by lush, green forests. The locals suggested we tour Dingle Peninsula in the southwest instead of the more famous Ring of Kerry. We were glad we followed their advice because it led us through some of the most beautiful land and water. We saw cattle and sheep farms with dry stone wall divisions, lakes, waterfalls and beaches, including Inch Beach, where the 1970 movie Ryan's Daughter was shot. We went to the Bunratty Folk Park and attended a traditional medieval banquet in the Bunratty Castle Fortress. Huzzah! Ah! We drove northward through County Limerick to County Clare, where we stayed in Dromoland Castle, with its extraordinary history going back to the 5th century. It was the family home of the Gaelic Brian Boru, the 35th great-grandfather to Queen Elizabeth II. He was the High King of the entire island of Ireland from 1002 to 1014. The castle was gorgeous with blended old-world elegance and modern comforts. From there we went to the west coast to see the 8th wonder of the world, the fabulous cliffs of Moher. This beautiful shoreline is featured in many films, including Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, The Princess Bride, The Macintosh Man, and Leap Year. We looped inland through the glacier-formed Burren, where we saw amazing limestone formations pierced with tiny wildflowers. We walked to the ancient Portal Tomb megalithic monument, where excavations found the remains of 33 people, showing that the tomb was in continual use for 600 years, somewhere in 4003 000 BCE. We swung west again in County Galway and reached the coast to stay in Abiglin Castle. This quaint out-of-the-way castle had a warm fire in the large, friendly fireplace of the lobby and was filled with narrow halls, steep stairs and rooms full of antique furnishings. From there we drove north through County Mayo to County Sligo, known for its medieval abbey and for being the hometown of Charlotte Stoker, mother of Abraham, who was later known as Bram Stoker, author of Dracula. The 17th century Markree Castle was full of antique furnishings. The bed covers included cosy, goose-down duvets for the chilly, damp nights. In our room, I saw loose wallpaper at the bottom of the wall next to the bathroom that revealed something wrapped in cloth. I pushed at it, thinking it was padding. A bundle fell to the floor, taking a rectangle of sheetrock with it and leaving a wood-framed gap. The string that wrapped the bundle fell apart and papers scattered. The printed pages were old enough to be yellowed and brittle. I gasped and called out to my husband, "Honey, come look at this." He looked and said, "I thought you had cornered a mouse or something." "Wait," I said before he walked away. "This might be something important." "Just looks like old papers to me." "Yes, they're old, but someone wrapped them in this cloth. Look. I think it might be a manuscript." I pointed to the top page. The typing is smudged, but this is the title page. It says, "Love at the Helm." I think it has 2 authors' names on it. I looked carefully and was startled to read the name of Barbara Cartland. I remembered reading some of her books. She was possibly the best-selling romance author to ever live. Wow. "This takes me back to the summer before I started high school," I told my husband. Mother introduced me to the county library, where I began to check out Barbara Cartland's novels. I must have read 24 of her books that summer. They were full of drama, intrigue, excitement, love, and closed-door romance. The stories spanned ages and countries with strong heroines of evil rivals, dashing heroes, exciting revelations, and always culminated in happy endings. That was almost 50 years ago, my husband said. Then he asked, could these papers be that old? Why do they smell like vanilla? And what about the other name he pointed? Louise Mountbatten. I've never heard of her. I swept one hand through the air over the papers as I asked, what should I do with all this? Just take it all to the front desk and let somebody else worry about them. Before I further damaged any of the fragile pages, we chose to lay them on a pillowcase. My husband took the case off one of the pillows and helped me move the pages to the case where I gently wrapped the papers.
I told the young people at the desk about the hole in the wall and asked if they knew what I should do with the papers. They just looked at me and shrugged their shoulders nevertheless. They wore friendly smiles. After some encouragement and coaxing on my part, they called someone who called someone else who finally called back and told me the second name was not Louise. It was Louis, as in Admiral Louis Mountbatten. Dame Cartland asked her friend, Admiral Mountbatten, for his help on many of her own books. How interesting, I said with excitement. What should I do with these papers? The person on the phone told me I should take the papers to Dublin. I said, we are going there day after tomorrow anyway. The voice suggested that I take them to either the Irish Manuscripts Commission, the National Library of Ireland, or Trinity College. I said, we plan to go to Trinity College anyway, to see the Book of Kells exhibition in the old library. The voice laughed and said, how convenient we made plans for me to meet a lady who specialized in this type of finding. Before my husband and I left the Castle Hotel, I used the business center to search the web for information tying Barbara Cartland with Louis Mountbatten. Dame Mary Barbara Hamilton Cartland, 1901 to 2000, became a successful society reporter when she was 21 and shortly started writing romantic fiction. She became known as the Queen of Romance, who wrote both contemporary and historical romance novels. Her prolific output reached 723 novels in 38 languages. Filmmakers adapted many of her books for television.
When she was 26, she married Alexander McCorquodale, but they split after 6 years. 3 years later, she married Alexander's cousin, Hugh McCorquodale. She had 3 children, including Countess Rain Spencer, who was the stepmother of Diana, Princess of Wales.
Dame Cartland was a London society figure who often wore pink chiffon skirts, heavy makeup, blonde wigs, and plumed hats. Most photos of her included her white Pekingese.
Dame Cartland had a long friendship with Admiral of the Fleet Albert Victor Nicholas Louis Francis Mountbatten, 1900 to 1979. He was the first Earl Mountbatten of Burma, a British statesman, naval officer, colonial administrator, and close cousin of the British royal family. He helped Dame Cartland by giving background naval and historical knowledge for many of her novels. Proceeds from their collaborations helped their favorite charities.
Dame Cartland discussed the plot of a new book with Admiral Mountbatten, and he gave information she could use in the book. She finished the manuscript, but before the Admiral corrected the proof, he went for a holiday and was brutally murdered. She said, his death was the greatest sadness of my life. Assassinated, I questioned. So I searched for more details. Classybon Castle, a country house on the Mullimore Peninsula of County Sligo, was inherited in 1939 by Edwina Mountbatten, who, with her husband, Admiral Mountbatten, made several improvements, including power and indoor plumbing. After his wife's death in 1960, Mountbatten spent his summers there until his death. In August 1979, Mountbatten was assassinated by a bomb placed aboard his fishing boat that blew him out of the water near Mullaghmore of County Sligo. His grandson and 2 others on the boat were also killed. A member of the Provisional Irish Republican Army had put the bomb. Mountbatten got a ceremonial funeral at Westminster Abbey and was buried in Romsey Abbey of Hampshire, England. The Mountbatten Memorial Trust, created by Mountbatten's great-nephew Charles, Prince of Wales, received the proceeds of Love at the Helm on its release in 1980. My husband drove us to Dublin, and we made our way to Trinity College, founded in 1592, which housed the old library, built in 1712 to 1732, and rebuilt in 1992. While my husband stood in line to see the Book of Kells exhibition, I went straight to the old library reception desk. Within minutes, a pleasant woman came to the desk and led me to an office. She put on white gloves before opening the pillowcase. She used a jewelry loop lens to look closely at the papers. She smiled and said, "These look authentic. We will know more when the lab has tested the paper, the typing and smudges, ink markups, and any fingerprints." She even asked that we let the lab get our fingerprints to eliminate our prints from their results. While I thought of CSI crime scene investigation, I said, "Of course, but my husband is in line for the Book of Kells exhibition."
She said nothing. I said, "I'll go get him." While fingerprinting took place, I asked, why was the manuscript hidden in the wall of a room in Markree Castle? How did the book get released without it? The lady said, "Firstly, I don't know. Secondly, the markups on the papers suggest that your find was most likely the first partial proof of Love at the Helm." A proof, not a manuscript. I felt depressed. Correct. This is only the proof of book portions pertaining to Admiral Louis Mountbatten's information given to Dame Cartland for her new book. He was to proofread it and make changes where needed. So, how was the book published without this edited proof? My understanding is that Dame Cartland used a tape recorder to dictate her books to her secretary, Audrey Elliott, who used the recordings to type the manuscript. MS sent the first partial proof to Admiral Mountbatten. When this partial proof was lost, hidden, or stolen, and the Admiral died, MS, Elliot looked back to the original manuscript on file and sent a second, clean partial proof to Mr. John Barrett, the Admiral's controller and secretary. Mr. Barrett read it and made necessary corrections. What's a controller? An accountant. So does this first partial proof of the book have any importance? Now I asked. If it is indeed the proof on which Admiral Mountbatten made his corrections, it could be quite valuable. Really, I cheered up. What will happen to it? The proper people will examine it and make their findings known. If it's what you and I hope it is, the estates of Dame Cartland and Admiral Mountbatten will decide its fate. Then, the lady led us to the front of the line to see the Book of Kells, showing once again that the people in Ireland are extremely nice and helpful. We saw the famous, medieval illustrated book of the 4 Gospels of the Christian New Testament. It was written in Latin, created by Celtic monks around the year 800, and is possibly the oldest book in the world. After we came home to Texas, I ordered a copy of Love at the Helm. Its storyline is: Captain Conrad Horn takes charge of a new ship, the Invincible. He is to sail his ship to Antigua to protect British trading routes. He is forced to take his cousin, Lady Delora Horn, whom he has never met, with him. She is to marry Lord Grammel, the governor of the British island. Amid perilous battles on the high seas, Conrad is badly wounded, and Delora saves his life. Of course, love grows between them, but so does despair, for she is already engaged. About a year after our wonderful, memorable trip on the Emerald Isle, we got a letter thanking us for taking our surprise discovery to Trinity College. The letter stated that the papers were the authentic, original, first proof of the authentic, Original manuscript for Love at the Helm, a novel by Dame Barbara Cartland, released in 1980. This original, first proof was sent to and marked up personally by Admiral Louis Mountbatten, who provided information to Dame Cartland related to American privateers and sea battles, as well as duties and discipline on a British two-decker, a sail warship with its guns on 2 fully armed decks with additional guns on the upper works. Proceeds from the auction of this authentic, original, first proof will go to the Mountbatten Memorial Trust created in 1980 by Charles, Prince of Wales, and supporting the charitable groups chosen by Admiral Mountbatten during his later years. Chief among these are technological research, the application of technology to help handicapped and disabled people, and support for disadvantaged young people. Hussa.